Chapter 71. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Usually, when Regia and I were together in one tent, the other village members would be placed furthest from our location. As such, the ones that would be rushing over here were definitely those of the Blood Dagger clan. Since it was not my tent, it may be a bit rude in behavior, but I called for the person outside. Come in. Even Regia was not in an uncomfortable position, since she had already decided to give her body and mind to me in the end, and follow me wholly. Rather, she was pleased that I did not wait for her, as if she was delighted at me standing above her. The unexpected MEV entered the tent from my order. Seeing me close to Regia, her eyes flared, but she did not say much since she noticed that I had not done anything yet. Despite that, she was displeased as she had an unhappy expression. Whenever I come to the second village, I had negotiated that I would not bring any clan females with me, but seeing MEV arrive here, it seemed that the time had come. I nodded my head, in which MEV spoke to me. Captain. I know. It seems that it was slowly time to start germinating the seeds of Heian. Of course, the objective wasn't this place. Thanks to that, I rose up from my seat and spoke to Regia. It seems that we must part as something sudden has happened back in the village. Please do as you please. Although she was slightly disappointed, Regia bowed her head to me. Funnily enough, MEV was smiling, as if the momentum of victory was leaning to her side. Of course, MEV was first for me. After stroking MEV's hair, I left Regia's tent. Once we were some distance away from the village, MEV spoke to me. Humans. It seems that they are heading towards the first village. I do not know the exact destination, but I am almost sure. Where are they now? At the entrance of the forest. How many? Around 50 people. A Heian should be included amongst those 50 people. Although there was a low chance that her guild had sent out troops, but a Heian must have participated in this expedition as a mercenary. Injecting some mana into the Covenant Ring, I began to hear a Heian's voice. Savior.nim. Are you coming now? Yes, yes. That is so. Savior.nim, the levels. The majority are 5th grade summoned with some 4th grade summoned. They were definitely heading to the first village along with a Heian. Hearing that, I immediately disconnected the line and made preparations as I quickly headed back to the village. Those that would head over to the village would be just Hark, MEV and I. The rest would all be on standby for battle. With Gark hiding his body, he followed behind us. This amount of force should be enough, as I told Hark's clone to wait here until a signal was relayed to them. With how much the distance was from Hakajan's village to the human city, we could afford some time, but I quickly told them to go and stand by for battle. Though everything was perfect, there was one problem. It definitely had no influence to the current plan we were proceeding with, but I still felt somewhat bothered by it. Due to MEV's wrinkled expression, the rest of the loyal 5 siblings and Hark was cautious around me. Child. Are you gonna have a child with that troll? An unexpected fastball. To ask such a useless question in this situation was not MEV-like, but after seeing that recent scene, it seemed that she was straightforward with me. Despite being close to her physically, seeing her like this, I realized just how much she cared for me. Though a bit different, her response was a bit refreshing, as if she was human. Despite talking with me, her eyes were a bit teary. In order to relieve MEV, I continued. I have no intention of having a child. She had a subtle, but relieved look. If I were to have an heir, the first one will likely be yours. With that decision, MEV's face brightened greatly. If no miracle were to arise, then it would be difficult to have a child with her, but with the way the evolution system worked, it will help her grow the way she wanted. As long as she grew properly, I had thought it would be great to have an heir for the sake of the village. Thus, after resolving this problem, we quickly headed towards Hakajan's group. With MEV being happy, even Hark was feeling good as he continued to chuckle while running. It seemed that he was extremely pleased to be a supervisor of the blood dagger test. To be honest, there was no need to supervise. Our purpose was to just monitor from the side to see how they would react from this. Despite that, he continued to mutter to himself. It's the blood dagger test. I am the scary supervisor, Hark. Though he was smiling mischievously, and he didn't look like a scary supervisor, he was too pleased as he was greatly anticipating the result of this test. Soon, we arrived and slowly began to approach the village. As expected, he had come out to greet me, remembering my words before that he didn't have to withdraw into the forest. Welcome, honorable warrior, blood dagger. I will guide you inside. Yes. Thank you. A somewhat undesirable guest had come to the village, one in which was the chief of a clan with a flag, so the guy did whatever he could to please me. To be honest, in his perspective, it was natural that I was not wholly welcome. What he valued most above everything else was safety. Whether it was for the protection of his village and subordinates, I wasn't sure, but he knew himself that he was weak. As such, he did not overextend. He would only hunt the ones that could be hunted, and definitely would give up on those that could not be hunted. That was how he was able to maintain the village to this day. As such, as one that emphasized safety, he couldn't send me away. After my bitter disappointment in my first meeting with him and not suggesting recruiting them, he thought more so like that. For Regia, it was the opposite. Unlike Regia's village, what Hackhagen wanted the most was for me to depart from his place. But, what business have you come here for? As usual, he asked for my purpose. How could I admit that I came here to test them, and so I made a rough excuse. I don't have one. I just came to have a drink with you. Obviously, these guys were fairly intelligent. Though not as intelligent as Regia, they probably had a rough estimate of why I had come here, although the mood was still a bit unwelcoming. As some time had passed while we were sharing a conversation, it was time. I injected mana into the Covenant ring and heard a Hyen's voice. Savi, or Nim. We have almost arrived. Where are you? Though it's a bit blurred, we can see it. At this time, even Hackhagen couldn't have not noticed this. At this time, voices started out from the outside. Hackhagen. Hackhagen. Humans. Humans, L.RG. Suddenly danger was sounded as the drumming was heard from outside. In that confusion, I turned over the table. They are running. Savior.Nim, the summoned are running. It's the humans. Hackhagen. In the end, the mannerless goblin went by us and spoke to Hackhagen. He looked back at me with a blank expression. As if his eyes relayed that he wanted us to fight together with him, but it seemed that he had something different in mind. How? With a force of this size, he probably would have fled away this instant. Assuming, of course, that I wasn't here. It seemed that he was cautious of what I would do. What would Blood Dagger do? It seems he wanted us to answer for him. From his words, I began crying out how unfamiliar to how I usually was. We will fight until death. For honor. Normal green skins will definitely accept these words without hesitation. However, he was currently staring back at me as if I was crazy. Hark then unexpectedly began to act even more realistically. With a reddened face, he began screaming. Victory. For victory only. For Blood Dagger. From his look, it didn't look like he was acting as if he truly believed in my words. Even MEV sighed before screaming loudly as well. For Blood Dagger. I could feel that Hackhagen was flabbergasted. Outside, the fear-stricken goblins and hobgoblins were screaming at him. What do we do, Hackhagen? The strong humans are rushing over. In the end. Hackhagen gritted his teeth and turned his head from us. As if he didn't concern himself with us, he rushed outside and began to scream at his subordinates. We are retreating. Everyone come inside the cave. With Hakagen's cry, the village began to flee furiously. It seems that they were running towards the cave like last time. Seeing them retreat just like that, Hark, MEV, and I hid in that very moment. That guy is a failure. He left us and fled. Hark was spewing furiously, in which I raised my finger and pointed at him. Comprehending my intention, he soon quieted. Even I knew that this one was a failure. At least, if he had thought of helping me, was what I had thought, but soon I shook my head and sent a message to Heian. Sa, Savior.nim, no one, follow the road. Yes. Yes. Since the humans were not stupid, they should be able to follow Hakagen's group to the cave. To be honest, I did not care if I were to run away, but I thought it would be unfortunate if they were to be nearly annihilated because of my test, and so I slowly headed for the cave. Follow at the back end. I do not want you to be in danger. Yes, yes. Thank you. Assuming that the monsters were weaker than them, they furiously rushed towards them as we quickly followed behind. After some time, they had entered the cave where Hakagen and his group was hiding, was what I thought. Then I heard a desperate plea from a Heian. Sa, Savior.nim. Simultaneously, screams begun to be heard. Hak. Hak. Those sounds were, no doubt, not from the green skins, but the voices of the humans. Chapter 72. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The voices that could be heard were definitely humans. A pleasant and interesting situation. Who knew that the guy I did not expect anything from at all would display such results? Smiling, I talked on the line to a Heian. Lead the troops and retreat back. Yes, yes, yes. You don't have to retreat with all of them. Just take a few humans that you've brought along and stay back. Is it an unavoidable situation? No. Savior.nim. Except for the warriors that have entered deeply within the cave, I will go now. Yes, yes. As such, MEV, Hark and I continued to sprint. In a split moment, we flew by the landscapes. This was how fast we were moving. The reason was simply because we were curious how they were hunting the humans, and so we couldn't restrain ourselves. And then we saw the cave in front of our eyes. Just like last time, it was like a canyon, as there were large boulders on each side. Funny enough, I had never expected they would set up an ambush here. Probably attributed to them acting of fearful to lure the humans here. While I was considering these thoughts, in a short span of time, rocks were being hurled down. Also above the boulders, the goblins were continuing to fire arrows and throw stones. Hack! Run away! Run away! What a masterpiece! A remark unknowingly sputtered from my mouth. That cave was a perfect trap. The human forces were already scattered, causing the melee warriors to be timely separated from the priests and magicians. I quickly headed out, though I had to take a roundabout way due to the boulders that were blocking the path towards the cave. It seems that those guys weren't in any danger just yet. Most likely, there were also countermeasures installed within the dungeon as well. Escaping to the side, a Heian and the other magicians blankly stared towards this side. Sa, Savior.nim. The moment she saw me, a Heian screamed. Of course, she didn't foolishly exclaim out loud. Although they were trying to fight, without a frontline person to tank for them, it seems they were in a troubled situation on how to fight. I ignored such small fry and turned away from them, as if I had no time to deal with them. My only concern was for a Heian to return alive without any doubt. It's the weapon merchant. Weapon merchant. Damn, why is he here? It seems that there were some summon from AIA. I ignored them and spoke to a Heian. Nice to see you in a long time. Go back. Yes, yes. You did well. I will be waiting for the day we meet again. Savior.nim, though her voice felt somewhat disappointed, she could not express it so. Whether to rescue their comrades or not, the public opinion was probably divided, but after recognizing my existence, the magicians probably have decided that it would be best to abandon the trapped comrades and retreat at this point in time. Those screaming voices from before were probably those of the trapped and frightened men as they wished to escape such a place. We climbed up the canyon towards the top. Then, we began to see the humans that were crawling up. There were some that decided it would be safe to enter the cave, but there were screams emanating from there as well. Victory. For victory only. For Blood Dagger. For Blood Dagger. Hark and MEV were excited at the scene of a battlefield full of blood and organs. Hark immediately unsheathed his sword and cut down those who almost reached the top, crushing their heads, while MEV was shooting down arrows from above. I too took out my great sword, too large to be a sword, and began to cut down the guys in front of me. Of course, I did not cease in searching for Hakugen. With the green skins noticing us, they were blankly staring at us thinking, what the hell was happening? In the end they were relieved we were helping them. Suddenly I started to feel magic leak from inside the cave, as I could feel vigor and strength from my body revitalizing due to that aura. Shaman. Somebody inside the cave was buffing the defenders. It is definitely Hakugen. Though the area of effect was great, the effect was a bit faint, making me assume that it was a buff. That versatile bastard. As a shaman, his level wasn't that high, but this guy was truly smart. Compared to other green skins, it could be said that he was no less than a genius. Not only did he restrict passage to inside the cave, but he had also set up the boulders so high that the humans could not climb out of this canyon-like pit. If it was only Hakugen's group that was present, the humans would have been able to escape, but MEV's bow did not allow such hopeful endeavors to occur. With a large bow she had received from the ancient warrior's tomb, the humans that were trying to escape on the other side of the stone pillars, were shot down from that very position. The humans that were not invited into the entrance of Hakugen's cave were already some distance away along with a Haiyan, leaving the isolated humans here to be annihilated. Hark! The moment I called him, a loud roar erupted out. For Blood Dagger. With my sword cutting down the surface of the stone pillar as I descended, Hark did the same as he followed me down the canyon. Arriving at the base of the canyon first, I gave the people in front of me a present with a slash of my greatsword. Koreak, I continued to cut them down, as I could feel that I had grown stronger in comparison to before. What a merry festival! I changed weapons to my ancient flame sword and started swinging in a fiery and furious arc. A critical strike must have landed, as the flames of my weapon flared out. With a sizzling sound, an immense heat burst out. It seems that my unique ability's passive effect must have had some influence in that critical hit. With a smile, I swung my sword. Hack! Hack! Literally, we were like cats hunting poisoned mice. Hark, who had arrived at the bottom beside me, also thrust his spear towards the humans. Though there were arrows raining down from above, Hark and I weren't foolhardy to be struck by those. Hack! It hurts. I assumed incorrectly, as it seems the new Hark wasn't like that, and he felt the damage regardless. With his cute appearance, I couldn't help but smile. Soon, I didn't hear the screams from the humans any longer, as it appears the battle was completely finished. Looking up at the canyon, funny enough, the goblins of Hakugen's group had their bows drawn against us. How interesting. But I did not worry too much. Since MEV was aiming her bow at them, along with the fact that I would never be hurt by their arrows. They were holding their bows full of uneasiness at this current predicament. They should know roughly that, trying to fight us would lead their untimely demise. Then, after finding an adequate place to sit, I waited for Hakugen to come out. Simultaneously, Hakugen came out from the cave, as one goblin after another laid down their bows purporting their intention of not fighting us. Hakugen was staring at me a bit surprised. Especially after casting aside the ideals of fighting to the death for honor, he wondered why I was here. Forgive my rude It seems he spoke of an apology due to his subordinates and their drawn bows. I did not reply to him as I chuckled instead. Keriak. He looked around uneasily. It seems he was truly frightened. This guy was truly a coward. He was careful and cautious about everything. I know these types of guys very well. They always think of the worst scenario. These kinds of guys will continue to roll their heads. What if a fight were to occur, or what if the humans were to return, or what if Blood Dagger were to attack me? Despite that, the reason why he had come out to this place was due to his own sense of responsibility. With a truly bemused expression, I spoke to him. The first time we met at this place. You tried to kill us. He did not reply. Keriak, this place was obviously a refuge and a fallback place. When the Blood Dagger clan first came to him, he had lured us to this place. If we were to have come here with the intention of killing them, then he would have withdrawn his sword against us. Of course it was an unfavorable fight for them. Despite that, Hakagen, this guy, was truly interesting. Hakagen. Please speak, there was nothing left for them to hide. With a worried expression, he began to monitor me. He had a lot of thoughts swirling in his mind. First, I asked if he was trying to kill us, which he couldn't reply. Second, I asked if he left us and fled. But, I wasn't here to rebuke this. This guy. Clearly. Will revive the Blood Dagger clan. After arranging my thoughts, I spoke to him. I would like it if your group were to join with my Blood Dagger clan. That is, though he roughly suspected, as if he was surprised, he looked at me with his eyes wide open. It was funny seeing his worried expression, as he scoured his surroundings. The location of this cave was breached, as well as his village by the humans. They had lost their foundation and base to survive in this forest. In any case, accepting my proposal was the right choice. But, his expression was not corresponding. It seems that, with his worries, he was roughly guessing. The fact that he would recklessly die while fighting. What is the honor that you speak of? He did not reply to my question. His eyes were hollow, knowing that the moment they fled the exam of the Patriarch, that only something that those without honor would commit. The honor that we, the Blood Dagger clan, uphold, is one of attaining victory using whatever means possible. To survive using any means. Surviving is also honorable. It is also honorable to save your subordinates. You are an honorable warrior, Hakagen. Our Blood Dagger clan needs a warrior like you. From my words, his expression began to change faintly. As if he was shocked, his mouth stood agape as he was starting to become teary. His method was not honorable. Other than his group, the other green skins could not comprehend Hakagen's way. That was why they hid themselves to survive. I wasn't sure, but I could guess that he was thinking of himself being finally recognized. To be recognized for his way of survival for the first time in his life. There was no greater joy than that for a green skin. After some time had passed, the guy slowly brought his hand to his chest and spoke. I will follow you. It was an extremely moving and emotional voice. Chapter 73. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing him, I smiled. The goblins on top of the canyon were staring blankly at Hakagen, before raising up their weapons one by one. It seems they've realized what just transpired through Hakagen's voice. Just like in the beginning, Hark was waiting for the right moment, just so they could shout my name. Victory. For victory only. For Blood Dagger. With Hark starting up the clan motto, the Blood Dagger clan and their new compatriots began as one began screaming. For Blood Dagger. Hakagen in front of me did as well. He tried his best with his teary, emotional voice as he shouted louder than anyone else. Our newest clan members who were nearly identical to us in their enthusiasm. I couldn't help but be greatly pleased with this. I did not simply gain clan members, but also attain those who were truly following me. I raised my hand to my chest, which caused another outcry from the crowd. Thanks to this, I was extremely elated upon returning to the village. With their location having been breached by the humans, they had abandoned their base, and after briefly packing their essentials, they headed directly towards Black Spear's village. After presenting these guys, who had abandoned their honor, in front of Black Spear, he gave a quick welcome, as the family within Black Spear's clan increased on that day. Of course I did not miss the welcoming ceremony for him. There were no rules or laws, but I sat down on the ground and began to drink and eat meat, as the welcoming ceremony commenced. Welcome to our new brethren and kin. For Hakugen. For Blood Dagger. I could hear the voices here and there. Hark, who was in charge of supervision, began to explain to the loyal 5 siblings and the others of what he had witnessed, and soon smiled at the type of style that Hakugen and his group fought in. Hakugen is a smart green skin. Prioritizing one's subordinates is an important attribute of a group's leader. He's a man fitting of the Blood Dagger clan. I did not know how the others viewed him before this, but at least the clan did not reject him. MEV and the 3 goblin sisters were also quite pleased with the newly admitted female green skins. It was completely different in comparison to how they treated Regia. It seemed they were satisfied with the humble females of Hakugen's group as MEV, Heian, and the 3 goblin sisters began to converse amongst one another. Probably, they were explaining the rules and teaching them the unspoken laws of the Blood Dagger clan. It seems that there were rules for the women. Though I wanted to listen into their conversation, I thought it would be medicine if I were not to, I thus turned my attention away. PR note. This phrase most likely means that it would be better for his health if he were not to do as Blood Dagger suggested. With Black Spear participating in this ceremony, the gathering increased a bit, as all of us were dancing and whooping around a large bonfire throughout the night. For Black Spear, for Blood Dagger. I too enjoyed this moment. Though Hakugen's forces were a bit lacking, as the only shaman in the clan, I had high hopes of raising him up as an executive, as I lifted my cup up high. As such, we moved on to the subject of the test. Due to Gark openly speaking about the Blood Dagger test, Hakugen knew everything about this. Congratulations on passing the Blood Dagger test. Though he confidently spoke, with that cold reaction, I could still remember his face becoming petrified as he looked at me. Thankfully, it seemed that Hakugen wasn't in a bad mood. Rather, he was extremely pleased that he had passed the test. So all of this was a test. That is so. I apologize if you feel bad. No. Rather, being able to enter the clan this way is an honor. He bowed his head, inspiring me to make a prompt reply as I spoke. Like I mentioned, you have the privilege, as you are sufficiently honorable. Not anyone can forsake their own life and abandon their honor for the sake of his subordinates. Hakugen, you did flee from the Honorable Grand Patriarch's exam. However, I don't think that you have abandoned the pride of a green skin. It is truly too commendable of a praise. I am just a cowardly green skin. It is okay if you are a cowardly green skin, as long as you do your best in what I assign you to do. Don't think of my honor and instead emphasize our maxim. Surviving and winning is the priority. It is an honor, honorable warrior, Blood Dagger. The guy became emotional and teary once again. Despite knowing he was a cowardly green skin, I hadn't imagined that he would be one with so much tears. Though he was lacking for now, there was no mistake he would be a valuable ally in the future. I patted his back saying that it's okay. Since I had attained him, I decided to ask if he knew of any other groups. There is one more group that is taking the test aside from you. I knew that you would do so. Originally, I planned on taking one of the 2 groups, but seeing you, I changed my mind. Do you know anything of the female troll named Regia? I thought that he would roughly know. In the case of those green skins without flags, there was a high probability that they knew each other. As expected, he replied to my question honestly. Yes. I know. Though it was a long time. I have even met her. I see. May I ask what business you two met for? Of course. Though I asked for an answer, I roughly knew the answer. The fact that the two groups would encounter, the answer was obvious. Before Hackhagen opened his mouth, I spoke. Was it, for recruiting? Yes. That is precisely so. For one without a flag to recruit, it seems that she had quite a lot of ambition. Obvious enough, I was beginning to become curious as to why he declined her proposition. With an extremely interested face, I asked. Why did you decline her offer? Since it cannot be said that we would be in her group. She just gathers the green skins and live together. Though I do not know the precise details, but it seems that they are separated into two factions. I had a little hunch. There were green skins that looked like humans and those that were not. Though there were quite a number of green skins that looked like humans, there were also a lot that did not look so as well. Those that hunt humans and those that don't. I see. It made sense since Regia and a few other women had a similar appearance to that of a human. Since having a human's appearance over a monster's would make it more advantageous in hunting male summoned. It seems that they had not thoughtlessly evolved, but evolved according to their needs. The fact that Regia did not share her hunting style and method to me was probably because she thought it would be disturbing to hear of. No, she thought that I would dislike that kind of hunting. If she had known how our clan had burgeoned during the tutorial, she would never think like that, but whatever. After listening to his words, I desired Regia even more. I had initially thought she was an intellectual woman, but even utilizing one's gender as a weapon, she looked even more favorable in my eyes. Hackhagen, if they were to pass the test, if you were the chief, would you let them join you? It's about half. Regia, there's no mistake that she would be a great help in developing the Blood Dagger clan. She is wise and intelligent, and knows how to survive very well. But, she is greedy and ambitious. She values those that are on the outside more, which was why I saw desperation in her eyes. Even when we met back then, I knew. I knew that she wanted to possess everything. It certainly seems that she had a lot of ambition and greed. The fact that she had offended Mev and furtively seduced me was not to just enter the clan, but to construct a seat of power after joining. No wonder Mev, the current mistress of the clan, was very unwelcoming of her. If what Hackhagen and Mev spoke about her was true, then there was a high chance that she would desire for the mistress position upon entering. I see. To conclude, once she merged with us, after obtaining her benefits, she would bring about problems within the clan. Of course, all of this was to be considered after she passed the test. If she were to abandon us, then our relations with Regia would be cut off right then and there. I started to anticipate the upcoming exam. It seemed that all the preparations were ready. Although Ahian could not participate in the attack against Regia's tribe, her information should be spreading to the nearby humans around her. After investigating what had happened at Hackhagen's tribe, there will probably be groups that will be flocking towards Hackhagen's group, but there would be no one over there. Those impatient humans, subsequently, have a chance that they could immediately form a party and head over there. As substantive as the evidence the location of Hackhagen's village, they would be equally confident of the existence of Regia's tribe as well. Thinking that the test might come sooner than expected, I laughed. As if knowing my thoughts, Hackhagen spoke to me. It's up to Blood Dagger to decide. Thank you. I think I did well in accepting you guys. What a lovely guy. Even Regia had made the same statement as him before. That the final decision was up to me. But why it felt as if his remark sounded distinctly different from Regia's, I did not know. I absent-mindedly raised my glass. Originally, the Grand Patriarch would cry while doing this, but due to my habits as a human still remaining in me, I wanted to share this joyful time with everyone. Today, we have attained brethren who will be with us together for life. We are drinking this shot for our brethren. Drinking for the sake of our brethren. We are drinking for Blood Dagger and his brethren. Not only Hackhagen, but even Black Spear raised his glass, understanding what my actions meant, as they laughed faintly. Then everyone raised their glasses up high and shouted loudly as Giant Wolfabar began to howl into the air in bliss. For our new brethren. For our brethren. For Blood Dagger. As such, a pleasant night had passed by. TL afterward Calvies. Hearty night. Feels like a one-piece bonfire celebration LOL. TL notice. After reviewing my translating speed and discussing with my staff, I decided to release both Green Skin and Dragonpour daily. I hope that this will compensate for the lack of releases in the past, and also allow you readers to enjoy these novels more. Thank you. PR afterward Psi 101. $Regia fails the test. BM. I hope at least the non-human like green skins in Regia's camp join them. Regia is already being made out to be an enemy. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, borderline masochist. Chapter 74. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Some time had passed since Hackhagen had joined the Blood Dagger clan. I thought there would be some friction, but in contrast to my thoughts, they were adapting extremely well. To conclude, it was a really good choice to accept them into our clan. Although they haven't garnered any achievements as of yet, but like the complete clan they were adapting well. With the clan's only shaman being Hackhagen, many of the archers and ranged attackers formed around him, elevating the status of the leader of the archers, MEV, by a level. In addition, as the mistress, all of the newcomers followed and regarded MEV as the big sister of the clan. Not only that, but a small number of the melee combat green skins were already put under training by Gark and Hark. Since the new recruits lacked proper training methods, they were passionate, and it seemed they would rise up to a respectable level. Amongst them, I had the most expectations for Hackhagen. But the results were not that good. I learned through Black Spear that Hackhagen's potential as a shaman was normal. Even if he were to develop, it would be hard for him to be classified as one of the elites, which caused me to be a bit disappointed, but I was still thankful that we at least had a shaman. I was previously thinking if the clan had a shaman back in the tutorial days, I would recommend them to the position of commander of the special classes. As such, I was pondering on how to make him into a shaman commander. With every possible opportunity, a special class should open. What I was most fond was how much he resembled me. If he truly changed classes to a commander, he would attain huge results. I did not doubt it. Even with the process of integrating his group within our clan, I did not stop visiting Regia's tribe. After being informed by Hackhagen, I began to start watching around my surroundings a bit more. Truly interesting. Where are you looking so intently? Koreak, it's nothing. Despite being somewhat uneasy, after checking the status of her tribe, I could not respond. This group was definitely divided. Those who had evolved into human-like appearances and those that didn't evolve into human-like appearances. These two factions did not necessarily have a good relationship with one another. In other words, it was on the verge of collapsing. In my eyes, they had not gathered because they had lost one's honor, but because they truly needed this group to survive. As such, it was no wonder why Regia was becoming increasingly urgent. Slightly chuckling, I looked at Regia. Seeing me, she lowered her head and blushed. It's embarrassing. Though my face was pretty good looking for a green skin, whether she was truly abashed or not, I was extremely curious. Let us enter. Speaking, Regia went past me and entered the tent first. This woman had no ability to control her group. She was definitely smart. However, being an intelligent green skin doesn't mean they can all be a chief. In Hackhagen's case, he could be qualified to be a chief, but I couldn't feel the same for this woman at all. Since she wasn't foolish, she probably knew of this fact as well. As such, that was why she became so obsessed with me. That is to say, if she were to join the Blood Dagger clan, she would desire to become a new center of this clan. Entering the tent, I drank and laid down. Another day passed like this. And another. As time went on, they began to bite the bait. It took longer than expected, but I could definitely feel the humans in the surroundings. It seems they were already well informed of the force and strength of this side, as a superior archer had scouted this place before returning. Regia did not know of this fact. When MEV had discovered this place, she left behind traces that were located at quite a distance from the tribe. Of course, I had not forgotten to clean up after the human archer, just so that Regia's group had no way of discovering these tracks. Thanks to that, I communicated with Ahian, and was relieved to hear that nothing had happened to her after the Hakugen Blood Dagger test event. Becca Ahian, yes, yes. Savior.nim, how is the second situation proceeding? Ah. If I were to directly participated, then I would have known, but I'm not, so it doesn't matter. Tell me what you already know. I somewhat wanted to praise you for doing well, especially for not delving too deep this time. Thank you. Savior.nim, if I were to update you on what I know so far, it would seem as if they are making preparations to attack the second tribe. It's the first time I have heard of this, but the second tribe was one that a small clan was originally looking for. I think that finding the location alone was a great achievement for them in itself, as they are now strategizing. As expected, it seems that this tribe previously engaged in human hunting. Since there were a lot of brooding clans, the situation became more interesting, as I calmly anticipated the time for the Blood Dagger test. I then nodded my head and continued. If you notice them departing, send a signal and report it to me. Is that much possible for you? Yes, yes. I will do my best. Soon, I disconnecting the line and began to merrily laugh. Leaving the tent, seeing everyone's eyes wide open and glittering with anticipation, I spoke. It's a battle. Unlike the first Blood Dagger test battle, we had no need to leave anyone alive. This was not only the last time, but the chances of having Ahian suspected were slim. With that anonymous rumor that had been spread, it would definitely be difficult. As long as she's not involved, we could lay down our worries and fight. Of course, before that, taking the Blood Dagger test came first. Despite that, the Blood Dagger clan seemed excited. Wah wah wah. It's a battle. The Blood Dagger test. I will fight together with Blood Dagger. Test and battle. Seeing the emotional side of the original clan members, Hakugen's group also raised their weapons fearlessly and screamed. But this had to be a battle without casualties. If it was his original Blood Dagger clan, he wouldn't worry, but Hakugen's group could come into danger. The new arrivals will stand at the rear lines. Ah, I understand. Thank you for your consideration. As if he knew of this fact, he humbly accepted it. With Hakugen's current strength, this was the most appropriate decision. As long as his group stayed in the rear, they wouldn't be swept away by most attacks. Like I had originally planned, I decided to briefly visit Regia's tribe. MEV and Heian were displeased, but it couldn't be helped. Soon, everyone was prepared for battle. Raising my body up while pondering the pros and cons of the coming Blood Dagger test battle, I headed over to Regia's tribe. You've come after a long time. There was some work recently. The women of my clan are not favorable in me coming here, is that so? It feels like a refuge here with you, Regia. It is thanks to you. It is an honor for you to think like this. It seems she was happy that things were going her way. This time, I will be here a bit longer before returning. I feel thankful. From my words, she blushed as she lowered her head. To be honest, despite having been a while since I saw this side of her, I knew that this woman would never move hastily. If she were to move hastily, she knew that a prey like me could escape. So she would slowly bind me with her top-quality ventriloquism. It wouldn't end with her being a subordinate. As a woman, this troll was extremely beautiful. Of course, with the premise of having no knowledge of this woman's identity, everything was on the line. Nevertheless, I decided to move around and spend my time a bit leisurely, as I waited for a Hyen to communicate to me. Some time later. They have departed. Savior.nim, the moment I've been waiting for had arrived. Scale of the expedition. A bit similar to last time, but there are quite a number of talented ones this time. With a few clans having brooded over these monsters, it was natural that they would send some competent people, but our side was also tough. In the beginning, this was intended to be a test, but once the test was done this would also be a trap for the humans. Good work. I hope to see you again. I will arrange a separate place for you. Yes, yes. Thank you. Since it would take a while before they arrive, I decided to quietly bide my time, and soon shared a conversation with Regia before lying down to sleep. It was then that an unruly sound begun to be heard from the outside. Ugh, why are there humans? It's the humans. Regia.nim. There are humans. It was the same repertoire back with Hakagen's group. With the discovery of humans from afar, there was still some time to afford, so I thought I should quietly close my eyes. With the chaos ensuing outside, I could hear Regia running over. She quickly opened the tent before cautiously speaking to me. Who, humans? The humans have come, Blood Dagger. They are in the immediate vicinity. In a moment's time, they will enter this village. From those words, I quickly opened my eyes and spoke in a low voice. Koreak. It seems we have to prepare for battle. Yes. After completing the script I had memorized, I monitored Regia's reaction. She had a confused look. She definitely wants to run away. There was no Blood Dagger clan in this place, and the humans were right in front of her nose. It was only a matter of time before the humans and their group would clash against one another. Even if it was me, I could not overcome those countless humans by myself. I was growing to an elite level, but that doesn't mean I was an elite. If I were to fight in my current state, even I would surely die. In other words, it meant that both Regia's group and myself were exposed to the risk of death. But, I was truly enjoying this moment. These kind of battles spurred me on. Thus, I got up and began to arm myself. My equipment consisting of the great sword too large to be a sword, and my ancient flame. Regia was staring back at me with a puzzled look. Seeing those eyes, if it were Hakagen, he would surely run away. No, he would definitely run away. But, interestingly enough, she, with an expression full of fear and a panic-stricken voice, nodded her head with a worried expression. I will follow your will. TL afterward Calvis. Yes. Make that woman submit to your almighty rule. Anyhow, dang, she's brave. Willing to fight those humans by herself just with having Blood Dagger beside her. PR afterward Psi 101. It still remains to be seen. Such a good-for-nothing chief runs to MC first instead of organizing the tribe's defense etc. BM. Regia. I feel like this will go horribly wrong. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, borderline masochist. Chapter 75. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I will follow your will. To be honest, I was a bit taken aback by her response. It was because of her terrified eyes that were staring at me. I did not say much before heading out, since her words could be contradictory to her actions. If an actual battle were to arise, they could run away. Heading outside, many of the green skins looked towards me. Seeing me armed, they cleared a way for me with their uneasy expressions locked onto me. Soon, Regia left the tent and announced, "We will fight together. We will fight together with Blood Dagger and achieve victory. We will regain our honor." It was a small voice, but it was enough to convey the message to the rest of her subordinates. To fight together with me. I never knew Regia would decide on this choice, but it was good. As such, a few of the females that were not of the same thought as Regia, began to slowly back away. I heard how the group was breaking apart, but for it to reach this extent. I never imagined there would be someone who could willingly ignore the words of their leader, whom has led their group until now. In the end, a few actually turned their backs and began to flee. Regia did not try to stop those who were fleeing. The remaining ones were Regia, those who followed her, and myself. A few were already preparing for battle, as others were raising their weapons in anticipation of the humans. For victory. It seemed she was an assassin, as she held 2 daggers in each hand while she stared at me. They were eyes without confidence, and despite being nervous, she had already decided to follow me. The remaining members were only about 10 in total. Though the humans weren't rushing over here like last time, they were however, slowly advancing over to this tribe, as they probed threateningly. As if they were casting magic, the mana began to rise around the surroundings. They were intending to make the first preemptive strike with a flame spell. Bang! A thunderous sound exploded over as one of the walls was completely destroyed by the preparations for the human invaders to enter. I looked at Regia's eyes once more. She was still staring at me. Seeing that, I cried out loudly. Victory! For victory only. The motto of the Blood Dagger clan. Regia with an uneasy look began to scream. For Blood Dagger. Her display of loyalty was shown. But, my shout wasn't to test if she would echo out her loyalty amidst danger. It was a signal to the Blood Dagger clan to prepare for war. Hearing my loud roar, voices from all over the vicinity began to shout out. For Blood Dagger. For Blood Dagger. Victory. For victory only. For Blood Dagger. As if thunder was striking down onto the ground, their voices was so loud that my ears started to ring. Then, Regia's anxious eyes instantaneously were filled with confidence. There was no sign of her fearful expression at all. She was constantly looking around her with a thrilled eyes. As if she was amused by the large, thunderous roar, she chuckled. It could be a sign of simple joy. It could also be a sign of relief. But, seeing that smile, he began to think of the possibility. So you knew. It appears that she already noticed this was a test. Though the probability was slim, but for some reason, he was confident that she knew. If she truly knew things concerning the exam, then they were just playing around in the palm of her hands. Cutting off all of those who did not follow her, and only having her faction merge with Blood Dagger. In Regia's situation, that was the most ideal, and a beautiful scenario despite risking her life. But this was the most defining way of cutting off those who were not of her faction. He would confirm his theory afterwards, but for now. She truly is a snake-like woman. Interesting, truly interesting. I laughed just like before with Hakugen. Regia, seeing my expression, became uneasy once again. It seemed like what I had just mentioned was circulating through her mind. Instead of continuing to pay attention to Regia, I drew my sword slowly and rushed after the attacking humans. The uneasy Regia followed behind me, as the Blood Dagger clan members charged in from all sides. I held my sword up high. Then, Heian shouted from afar that the humans were fully entrapped by large plants. Any of the humans who had escaped were shot down by MEV's arrows. The fact that she was able to control all of those competent humans with a single action was surprising. Then, one of the humans cut off the plant bindings with a wind magic spell and stared at me. The magician wasn't coming towards me, but it seems that he was preparing for the next attack. Rather than dispersing, they held on to their discipline and maintained their formation while attempting to escape the plants. Nevertheless, the momentum had shifted. Blood Dagger clansmen began to rush over here and there, as Hark, Gark, the three goblin sisters all clashed against them, fully prepared for battle. It was not my role to help them advance into the village. I injected mana into the ancient flame sword and laid into them with some flames. Sizzle. Foo, fuck, what is this? Before the clamorous voices of, for Blood Dagger, could be heard, the humans were already shouting retreat, as they tried to back away. But, with my flames, the current landscape was even more chaotic than it already was, as Heian's plants continued to squirm and move around amidst the flames. Thanks to that, from the epicenter out, their formation began to break apart. Then, the Blood Dagger clan spearheaded the charge, driving a devastating assault to the humans. Screams and cries of despair filled the skies, as the battlefield's momentum once again shifting but this time to a one-sided ambush. Regia continued to follow behind me. These humans were definitely not weak, but, despite that, Gark suddenly appeared out of nowhere and crushed a man's skull. The results were the same for the magicians. While they were trying their best to endure against the arrows, the plants and roots from beneath caught them by surprise and impaled them to the ground. I, initially being worried that we might have casualties, began to madly swing my ancient flame and greatsword too large to be a sword against them, as blood and brains began to splatter all around. Whether it was because of the heat emanating from my body or something else, Ibar joined me as she began ripping the heads off of the humans in front of her. I smiled towards Ibar before speaking to the other clansmen. Don't die. An immediate response. For Blood Dagger. Thanks to that, my eyes began to redden as I became excited from the spur of the moment. But I had to settle down for the sake of my clan. At a critical point in growth, I could not recklessly incur casualties in this battle. This was a basic battle to minimize deaths as much as possible. The injured were taken back when they couldn't endure against their opponents. Rather than fighting them face-to-face, we had to chip away patiently. Those were the basics of this battle. But, those were not methods that the green skins were used to. Those that were even slightly injured ran to the back to be treated by Hakugen before joining the others again, as we focused on reducing their troops as much as possible. By concentrating more on ranged bow attacks and dagger attacks, we tried to minimize fighting sword versus sword. In the meantime, I began to monitor how Regia fought. There was no superfluity in her movements, as she portrayed a fine display as an assassin. Using the walls that the orc warriors were using, she only went forward when the kill was certain. It was the same for her subordinates. In other words, they were watching the battle at a broader scale. Hack. Oh hi. Run away. Foo, CK. Those human screams and cries were continually heard, which meant that the battle was going well. It was evidence that the Blood Dagger clan was fighting and enduring well. Then, I clashed against a guy who was holding a large shield, which had endured up until this point. I slammed my greatsword into his shield, before pounding his shield down with my ancient flame. He was using whatever strength he could to absorb the blow. Then a sizzle sound could be heard, as the heat caused him to drop his shield. With the guy screaming, I ruthlessly thrust the sword into the man's face. Hack. This battle was a little lacking in some ways, when I think about it. When I had reached this conclusion about the battle being dull, the voices of the humans began to dwindle down, as those who were still enduring, had their heads completely smashed in by Gark and Hark. In the end, the last remaining guy abandoned his weapon trying to escape, and the three goblin sisters soon finished the battle by pulverizing his head. Victory! Victory! For Blood Dagger! Blood and organs filled the floor. It had been a while since I had experienced such a battle. Seeing the overjoyed faces of the clan members, I slowly scoured my surroundings. Regia with an uneasy expression, including Mev and Heian. There was also a bit of a strange expression from Hackhagen. Then, looking towards me with an exhausted expression, she spoke. Thank you. About those, that fled, seeing her bow her head and spewing such gibberish, I laughed before I grabbed her throat high into the air. Fled, ach. As if she was befuddled at what was transpiring, those that followed Regia tried to approach her in the hope of saving her. However, they were bound down by Gark, Hark and the other subordinates. It seems that they had constrained them for now. Seeing how they were more quick-witted than I thought, I smiled as Regia's subordinates began to scream. Regia.nim ra, Regia. BL, blood dagger.nim, what is this, kek, she was struggling, but she was not resisting. It seemed for now that she roughly knew why I was doing this. Her eyes definitely emanated that. In order to revive her expectations, I growled before speaking to her. Staring at her eyes directly, a fear-stricken, pale face entered my sight. You knew. That one remark, which contained a lot of implications. Regia's expression became increasingly distressed. Afterward Calvi's. Finally, caught between her tails. TSK. TL notice. I've been sick the last 3 days now due to a severe cold, but will definitely do my best to not delay any releases. Thanks for all the support. PR afterward Psi 101. Such troublesome matters when dealing with love potential partners, while your side chicks looks on. BM. Yay. Finish her. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, borderline masochist. Chapter 76. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Of course, safety is important in this operation. Although things ended a bit unexpectedly with the matter of Hackhagen, but I had ensured that the traces of the humans approaching were erased, and I could not find any evidence that could lead Regia to believe a test would soon follow. Even though the hobgoblin archers of Hackhagen's group were under MEV's orders, all they saw in the outskirts were Broken Bow's hunting party. Even they were not too concerned much about the disappearing goblins. Funny enough, we could not even find a shadow of Regia's group. It was strange when I thought about it. Usually, green skins did not care what the other tribes did. All they prioritized was the autonomy of their own group. That was the unspoken rule. Even if Hackhagen's group were to have been wiped out by the assault of the humans, he wouldn't have requested help from Regia, as it was their own matter. It wasn't something that Regia should be involved in. Of course, since green skins were animals who lived in a society-like basis, many of the stories, legends, and rumors were revered for it. But, those stories did not involve the tribes of others, as it was done within the group. It might be different in our case, as Black Spear as a brother clan, but because of that, I did not expect that Regia would care for Hackhagen. What I overlooked was how she was greatly interested in the current events and circumstances within her surroundings. She was much more intelligent than I had thought. Despite knowing that something intentionally had happened to Hackhagen's group, she had not revealed it herself. Of course, she might not have known. Like Black Spear and Broken Bow, they would not care much for their surroundings, and would definitely not have realized this. But she was greedy. Unlike Hackhagen, she knew my purpose for reaching out to her tribe, and even guessed why I had ventured here. I began to recall the first conversation we shared back then. Surely. You asked if I knew the reason, as to why your Blood Dagger clan visited us. That is so. Isn't it to reinvigorate your clan that is short on bodies? With the countless brave and honorable battles you continue to engage in, the numbers of your clansmen are decreasing gradually. The high proportions of loss, you cannot recuperate those numbers from just breeding. Is this the reason as to why you have come to see us? That is exactly so. Ridiculous enough, she had known precisely the internal circumstances of our clan. Rather than judging how she had known of this by looking at our subordinates, I should have asked about the roots and sources she had used in realizing this fact. She did not only have much interest on her surroundings, but she was one that thought it was pivotal in handling information. For that kind of woman, to not reveal herself in the matter of Hakujen's tribe was much stranger. How could I not be curious? Such an intelligent woman. I began to tighten my grip more. Keck. Now she was desperately rolling her head. What kind of answer would be the correct one? To be honest, what reply she put forth, I was already finished with preparations mentally. I knew. An impressive choice. With this much, I was confident that she wasn't lying. You are an intelligent woman. A wise green skin, Regia. You must know why I am grabbing your throat. In order to have her speak comfortably, I loosened my grip. She immediately crumbled onto the ground, frantically gasping for air. However, I did not find this appearance pitiful. It was deceit. To dare try and manipulate the Blood Dagger clan. Despite knowing that this was the only opportunity to regain one's honor, I attempted to gain personal benefits. By excluding the other faction, I was trying to take those only who follow me. Do you take me for a fool? She did not answer. Knowing that my remark was right, she could not reply. To be honest, there was no reason why I was pressuring her like this. Whether she knew of the test or not, it did not matter. Rather, knowing of the test proved it to me that she was capable. However, Regia tried to stand on top of me. From the perspective of the green skins, she was utilizing the honorable test to preserve her individual benefits. In the standpoint of a clan, there was a problem with how she was trying to overtake the position of chief. Despite knowing what I wanted, she decisively abandoned her subordinates, making this a serious problem. I wanted to applaud her for passing the test through such dishonest practices. However, aside from that, you could not really state whether she had passed. If I was really foolish or had not discovered her true identity, I would have eventually been playing into the palm of her hands. There was a high possibility that, while I was the one thinking of controlling her as I held hands with Regia, when in truth it was vice versa. Regia had exquisitely used me. By having me in her hand, she moved me as such. Before things had gone awry, she was definitely in the advantage. I lowered my head and spoke to her. What do you think I will do to you? As the one that deceived me, and devised a strategy to gain personal benefits in this honorable test, from my words, Regia slightly raised her head before soon speaking. You will receive us. This snake-like bitch. Truly interesting. The reason. You need me. If not, you would have already killed me at this spot, and would definitely not have asked me these kind of questions. I did not answer. Seeing her uneasy expression, finding all of this too amusing, I laughed. Her words were correct. If I really had any thoughts of not leaving her alive, I would have already killed her on the spot. I wouldn't have necessarily interrogated her and demanded answers. So, in retrospect, this was a second test specifically for her. An unfair test in which I had to be fond of her, in order for her to live. Your words are right. Then why do you think I'm asking these questions? That is. To grasp the subject, before her answer was finished, I took one of the daggers that my clan members held and pierced it down onto her hand. That dagger pierced through her flesh, causing a shrilling cry to echo. Ah. Correct. Withdrawing the dagger from her hand, I continued. Whenever you live as a member of our clan, do not forget this pain. What I want from you is to stand on top of your enemies, not the Blood Dagger clan. Her eyes stricken with fear. But, as if she soon realized something, she nodded her head. I thought that even with this much, I wouldn't be able to fully control her. Whether it's human or green skin, one cannot hide their innate nature. One day, she will harbor some other thoughts, so I have done this so when she would recall this moment, as I stared at her. Then, Regia began to speak. I will remember, and remember again. At the same time, her body began to change. Was it a quest, the condition was probably to join the Blood Dagger clan. Ridiculous enough, but that was what I assumed as she completed the quest. For her to receive a quest to join the Blood Dagger clan, it was a relief to understand just how much she wanted to be with us, but that feeling too was a bit subtle. Soon, her body finished changing. She was a monster who was of the special class like the Alruane. A species that excelled in moving secretly while dealing with poison. An extremely great choice as an assassin. After she finished evolving, I began to stare at her in a strange expression. Flesh-like skin and long black hair with snake-like eyes and tongue. To be honest, her appearance itself was enough to make me drool. That beautiful, flawless skin and high nose along with those double eyelids were extremely alluring. It seems that you have received the warrior exam. A beautiful appearance, subconsciously, I had said something useless. With her changed body, her clothes began to flow down as her large breasts came into my view, similar in size to Hane's. The problem was that the lower half was completely that of a snake, but even that looked very attractive. As if she had heard me, Regia lowered her head. Thank you for your praise. I will devote my loyalty to you with all I can, until the day my life ceases to be. She sliced her hand, pressing down on the flowing blood as she bowed to me. With Regia pledging her life to me, the others also began to pledge as well. Seeing that confident expression of Regia, I had thought that maybe she was already aware of this second test as well, but I soon erased those thoughts. Whether she knew or not, it did not matter. She displayed her compliance to me, and I have already decided to accept her. There were no further problems which were important anymore. This might not be an appropriate analogy, but it reminded me of an anecdote of Cao Cao and Yang Xiu of the Three Kingdoms. It might not have produced the same results, but thinking of it positively, I extended my hand to her. She grabbed it and stood up. As long as she was an aid to the clan, I will not heed what she does. What's important is that she understands where she stands. I signaled over to Hakugen, and he quickly ran over, healing Regia with the healing totem, and the prolonged situation finally came to an end. As everyone focused on the conversation between Regia and I, they were speechless while they stared at me. Gark and Hark were completely baffled, and Hakugen nodded his head slightly. It meant that my decision was not bad. I will also allow Regia into the clan. Although her method may have been foolish, but she has passed the tests. She has shown the competence and intelligence of a green skin, thus, the new addition will lead our clan to a fresh revival. From those few words, the green skins began to cheer loudly. They did not have any hints of complaining. For Blood Dagger. For Blood Dagger. MEV and the three goblins had subtle expressions. Seeing the more beautiful Regia, MEV looked a bit nervous, but believing my words that day, she nodded her head. For Blood Dagger. From that call out, the three goblin sisters also raised their voices. For Blood Dagger. It has been quite a while since I had summoned over into the continent, but it now felt like I have finally built the foundations of the clan. Hearing their cheering bellows, I slowly walked ahead. TL afterward Calvies. Wow, finally, are we done with recruiting? But what about Broken Bow? TL notice. I've been sick the last 4 days now due to the flu, but will definitely do my best to not delay any releases. Thanks for all the support. PR afterward Psi 101. Psi Unwise Recruitment Chief. Regia will stab you in the back. BM. Ah, I was happy when he stabbed her, but to think she didn't die. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, Borderline Masochist. Chapter 77. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The clan led Regia and her group back to Black Spear's village, where they eventually received the hospitality and regards of Black Spear. Though I felt that we had stayed here for too long, Black Spear personally told us not to leave, so we decided to stay here a bit longer. As such, we began to reorganize ourselves while living in Black Spear's village. As much time passed. Better. Much better. Of course, it has been a while since I had learned the technique of throwing spears from Black Spear. My proficiency had improved, as I had attained satisfactory results, causing me to be slightly overjoyed when I could see these results in battle. Although I might throw weapons other than spears like Black Spear, but surely these techniques will be beneficial for me in the future. It is thanks to you, Black Spear. It seems that these techniques match with you better than I thought. Such is the nature of your style of fighting with many weapons. It is extremely beneficial. But Black Spear, I cannot think that I could ever match the power and force of the spears you throw. We have to wait and see. In addition to power, you possess a unique ability, so you can achieve it. By the way, it hasn't been long since your new subordinates have joined you. Are they adapting well? I roughly nodded to Black Spear's question. To be precise, it has been approximately 1 year since Regia has joined us. In that time span, the Blood Dagger clan had experienced many changes. We had suppressed our desires for battle to the utmost of our abilities, and focused on strengthening and reorganizing our hierarchy. The clan's invisible rank had become more defined and classified. For starters, MEV's power has been consolidated further, as she had been officially declared as the mistress of the clan, establishing her seat as the chiefess. Of course, as the head of the clan's archers, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was the busiest amongst our clan. After seeing Regia evolve, she trained arduously, in hope that she could evolve as well, but unfortunately, her body had not yet shown any signs of growth. Thanks to that, she began to confess her worries to me. Captain. What if I do not get bigger? That will not happen. Boo, but. Even if that were to happen, you are still the mistress of the clan. Is that so? The source of her worry was Regia. When she first arrived, she was a bit humble and tame, but at some point in time, she began to change back to her previous self as she slowly, but slightly tempted me with her smiles and cute tail. Knowing the current situation at hand, it did not waver my resolve, but it was enough to worry MEV. Funny enough, it was amusing to see MEV and Regia's pointless altercations, so I let them be. To be honest, if not for MEV, I would have thought of wanting to sleep with her. Regia, probably aware of this, might be tempting me with these subtle actions to date. The fact is that I was already receiving another type of volunteer service from her, but that was a secret that I could not tell to MEV. To explain simply, the tongue of a snake was unbelievable. That innate temptress, how could I not hate it? It is alcohol made for the chief. Please accept a glass. How are you today? Just from recalling that voice, I subconsciously shook my hips as there was no need for words. Anyways, Regia was in charge of the information and assassinations of the clan. After evolving into a Lamia, her potential rose significantly, making me think that I had done well in allowing her to join. Especially, the existence of poison in the Blood Dagger clan was extremely useful. To be able to increase another useful weapon in our armory was a welcoming matter. In our most recent battle, I witnessed the battle prowess of Regia, and had determined how she was an indispensable asset to the power of our clan. Heian was amongst the women who disliked Regia. It was not whether she was worried about losing the seat as mistress like MEV, but she was naively worried if her time with me would be stolen away. If Regia was a royal concubine with a lot of jealousy, then Heian would be one's good old wife. To be honest, even that wife label was assigned to MEV, but her appearance did not quite a match, so it was a pass. Rather, there was a strong sensation of MEV becoming a cute little sister instead. Maybe you should rest a bit. I have made something new. On the other hand, Heian gave me advice in a more humane perspective. Of course, I would only work at night with Heian. Due to MEV's authority, I had to meet her a few times a week in her tent, but in contrary to her high expectations, I have done nothing to her, unlike Heian. She has no responsibilities, other than being the clan's only magician. If we were to attain a few more magicians, then I would assign them under her command. Gark and Hark were in charge of the warriors and swordsmen of the clan. Anyone that was armed with melee weapons were assigned to them, as there were teams classified for assault squadrons, as well as many other responsibilities including surveillance squadrons. To be honest, it wasn't an exaggeration to say that the swordsman squad, including myself, was the strongest of the clan. Quick and effective, we fought wildly as we became stronger and stronger working up. Actually, a few months ago, I recall there was a time when I had a duel with Hark and Gark, in which I was surprised at how strong they both were. No matter if the situation was a 2 versus 1, no 3 versus 1, their attacks were truly sharp. In the end, I had won their respect with my victory, but in retrospect, my pride was bent. As expected, Blood Dagger is so strong. I will follow Blood Dagger for life. And then there's Hackhagen, the second smartest person in the clan, who was in charge of administration and military aspects of the clan. Anything which was troublesome would be relayed over to Hackhagen. In fact, administrative work was not as large as it was made out to be, but despite that, he was performing perfectly. In fact, it was no exaggeration to say the most reliable of these guys was Hackhagen. Especially after developing a new unit, centered around the 3 Goblin Sisters, under Hackhagen. At first, they were displeased with the decision, but they eventually recognized him. He's not as smart as Captain, but he's an intelligent green skin. Girick. As expected, the eyes of the captain are never wrong. Hackhagen is wise. I'm Flying Dot. But among the executives, the only one that I could call mine, was the one who was making remarkable growth, Becca Hyen. There are new believers, Savior.nim. Go, good work. Yes. Thank you. We are planning to have a worship service today. I can't recall just how embarrassed and flabbergasted I was when I first heard of this. The fact that an unidentified religion had been established in the slums of the city. Funny enough, with the increased number of followers, the strength of the pagans were growing, so there was no need to stop it. They said they believe in me, but they do not know of my name or my identity, but Hyen said it was fine, so I didn't mind. After 1 year, their numbers had reached about 30. The number wasn't small or large, but Hyen's growth was remarkably quick. To be precise, I didn't know what Hyen was preaching to them, but they were devout followers who would go and die if they were ordered to, so I began to wonder how she did it. I preached just as it is. A true Messiah for people like us. Soon, all these ignorant humans will be blinded by the magnificence of Savior.nim, and pledge to you in support of your ultimate goal. So reward, I don't know what I'm saying. It wasn't just the pagans, but Hyen was becoming stranger. Anyhow, she was a useful existence that would extort information and the status from the human city. Recently, it seems that she was being recognized in the guild as well. As she grew, her strength was becoming larger, and I thought it was best to harvest the seeds later. After roughly summarizing about everyone, I spoke to Black Spear. They are all doing well. It might not be ideal to live a battle-free life, but it seems like they learned that having some leeway away from battle is also important. Then it's a relief. At first, I felt 50.50 about the decision, but now I believe that you have made the right choice. In a short amount of time, to have thought that you would merge all these groups and flags into one. You are truly a wise chief. Same goes for you, Black Spear. Even Black Spear had grown once more after completing the warrior exam. As if he had determined that throwing spears would be more beneficial in a troll's body rather than an ogre's, he had decided to remain as one. His race value may not have gone up, but Black Spear was 1 level stronger than before. When I was spewing such meaningless stuff, Mevi began rushing over to me. Captain. Captain. What is it? It's come. It's come. The tribe's first child. I smiled lightly. The goblin who designed our flags had ended up mating with one of the girls from Hackhagen's group. Finally, the first child was born. Aside from him, there were many others who were mating, but I had been eagerly awaiting the news for this day. Blessing the newborn baby was the role of a chief. With a pleasant face, I headed out for the path. Let's go quickly. Will you come with us, Black Spear? No, Blood Dagger. Even if we are brother clans, I could not possibly participate in another tribe's event and make the others uncomfortable. It'll be best if you solely commit the blessing. Then I'll see you next time. After politely rejecting my proposal, Black Spear laughed like an old Ajusi. I soon arrived at where my subordinates were located, and just before I had stepped in, excited voices were heard from inside the tent. It's the tribe's first child. The first child. Girik. Girik. These excited guys were soon notified of my arrival. It's the chief. Blood Dagger has come to bless the newborn baby. Soon, making my way, I slowly entered, and saw the tiny face and feet of a small goblin. Girik, Girik. Girik, I had thought that it would look ugly, but seeing its cute appearance, a smile unknowingly appeared on my face. Is it a boy or girl? Then the goblin's mate looked at me before opening her mouth with a smile. It is a girl. Please name, I had heard mention of it, but it also seems that I had to name them as well. Then, I slowly raised the child high into the sky. Girik. Girik. The goblin began to cry vigorously. This is the firstborn child of the glorious Blood Dagger clan. This firstborn will definitely become a noble warrior. This child's name will be Nicole. Wherever this child travels, let the blessing of our god of the battlefield be with her. Woa. For the revival of the clan. For Blood Dagger. Those ever shouting voices, in this peaceful everyday routine, I had thought of this life in such a place, was truly blissful. Bedo de mtl afterward Calvis. Ooh, the first child. Nicole. Welcome to the noble Blood Dagger clan TL notice. Getting better. PR afterward Psi 101. I name you firstborn of the clan of Green Skins. May you grow strong wise in all things related to the Blood Dagger, Lil Mini She-Hulk. BM. I really can't tell if Blood Dagger is an asshole or a good person. Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, Borderline Masochist. Chapter 78. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hei-An slowly opened her eyes. The place where she woke up was not her own tent, but Blood Dagger's. Waking up, she came into the sight of an orc that was still sleeping. Those robust arms that looked like they were about to burst, that extremely attractive molar, she wasn't sure why the orc that looked so scary in the beginning seemed so lovely now. Recollecting back to last night, her face reddened automatically. As previously mentioned, Hei-An was the oldest of a normal family. After her father had passed away, all she had was her mother and her two little sisters. Since their financial situation wasn't so well off, she had adjusted into society much faster than others. She didn't have any special qualities, as she worked in the factory without even dreaming of being in a relationship at all. She began to subconsciously stroke the lovely orc in front of her. The person who took everything from her. He was scary at times, but he was extremely loving, someone who she did not even want to be taken away from her. Is this what you call a boyfriend? A little excessive on the thought. However, she knew somewhat, she was currently in a relationship similar to dating in her opinion. Hei-An began to slowly change clothes. She couldn't adjust to the plant-like lower body of hers at first, but with how much he loved the honey down there, she thought that she made the right choice of becoming an Alron. Of course, she knew that she was becoming extremely brutal and heartless after evolving, but after carefully considering, she couldn't remember whether she had become cold before or after becoming a monster. During her human days, she had continued to scream and scream bloody murder in order to live, but it felt like she had enjoyed that time as well. I am above you. I will survive. With these light-hearted thoughts continuing to circulate in her mind, she felt pleasure. She, of course, knew of this fact. If her lovely sisters were to see her now, they would be extremely shocked. Uni is too kind. Remembering those voices, Hei-an began to subconsciously laugh. It was because she was far from being a kind person. Anyhow, after roughly washing up, she walked out. The next location everyone was gathering was in the second largest tent next to Blood Daggers, Chief Executive MEV's tent. Of course, Hei-an knew her well. Since the beginning days, she was the goblin that moved together with Blood Dagger. Of course, she was a fairy now, but she was the green skin who was currently the mistress of the clan. The reason why they were gathering at MEV's tent was to participate in the women-only meeting. The women of the Blood Dagger clan had regular meetings. Of course, the subjects and topics of the meetings weren't much. In her eyes, she was looking at some childish talk, but they were somewhat serious. Despite that, the reason why she was participating is because it was one of the clan's rules, and it is also to forget her past completely while adapting into this group. There were already a few gathered when she opened the tent, and she heard a few voices leak out. It's a meeting for females only. Girik. A meeting for women only. Hei-an slowly entered the tent, as countless female subordinates were already sitting tightly between one another, while also taking note of the human bones hanging from the roof, making it hard to consider this was actually a woman's room. The plant has come. It's the plant. She came from the chief's tent today. Of course she was currently being treated as a wife of Blood Dagger like MEV. She had never been recognized, but it was still a feel-good moment as she lightly greeted the goblins, before heading to her seat. Soon, the clan's true mistress entered as all of the noisy goblins became quiet. Escorted by the three goblin sisters, she looked dignified. As if she looked a little cute, Hei-an subconsciously smiled. It's the chief executive. MEV has come. Let's start the meeting. MEV began to sit gracefully on the chair prepared for her. Normally, it would have been easier if she was sitting in the chair before. She couldn't understand why MEV had to enter in front of everyone, but it did have some effect. Despite it looking meaningless, it had its own impact. After looking around, MEV had a stern look. One person is missing. From MEV's words, the three goblin sisters began to become enraged. Soon, the tent was under chaos. That snake bitch. I don't see Regia. She challenges the chief executive's order. We have to punish her. At this moment, the tent opened as Regia entered. Even in Heian's eyes, her face was extremely beautiful. It was an appearance so beautiful, that even her pride deflated, as she was forced to admit how Regia was prettier than her. She was worried about seeing her with Blood Dagger more often recently. But, it wasn't to a point where she had to be wary, because she was still lacking in being a person to be cautious with. Oh my. I'm sorry. I slept in a bit longer. There was a high chance that she was deliberately late. Since she was dealt quite harshly by Blood Dagger before, she was not trying to cause disorder in the clan, but it was routine to see her annoy MEV in this way. If Regia were truly set on raising chaos through factions, then she wouldn't have sent the females over to her in the first place. Seeing the green skins of her group having arrived here already, she was relatively holding the line well. You are late today too. Snake. Snake is always late. MEV must painfully punish her. I can't take it anymore. Oh my, oh my. I was late for a mere 10 seconds, but isn't that too harsh? I did not think that the grace of the clan's mistress was this narrow. Didn't you talk like this before? You must punish her this time, MEV. From Regia's excuse, which didn't feel like one, the three goblin sisters were even more agitated, but MEV didn't show a reaction. I'm truly sorry. Please forgive. Regia had even bent her body and lowered her head. Hei-an, seeing Regia like this, knew that she was probably teasing MEV. MEV was inwardly seething, but seeing Regia like this, her current situation would condone her if she were to openly display her anger. If not for the many eyes, she might have said something, but with this many spectators, she had decided to endure. Normally, she would have raised a ruckus, but seeing how quiet today was, it appears that something joyful had happened. Despite Regia's provocation, a smile entered her sight. "I will forgive you. We will conduct the meeting a bit later from now on for you." "Thank you." Regia was a little disappointed from that response. It was a scene that was unexpected for Heian as well. Thanks to that, MEV was once again praised by the surrounding goblins. Such a generous chief executive. If Blood Dagger is a tough father, then MEV is a wise mother. She has a heart as wide as the ocean. MEV, MEV. With everyone chanting her name, MEV raised her hand. In that split moment, the crowd became quiet. Then MEV looked around and spoke. "Yesterday, the Blood Dagger clan's first glorious child was born. It's Nicole. Nicole, we must show our appreciation and respect to Nayab, who has safely birthed the first child of the clan. I would also like to express my gratitude to Nayab, who is participating in this meeting despite having recently given birth. Thank you." She was currently making this a place to praise hard work and effort. That was what Heian thought the atmosphere was shifting towards. But, it seems that the main point will be addressed separately. As if MEV wanted to say something, her mouth began to move. And there's an important announcement. I have heard the voice of our god of the battlefield. In fact, it was common to hear the voice of the god of the battlefield. She shouldn't be speaking with such seriousness like this. Heian and the other goblins all wondered the contents of the quest as they heard MEV speak powerfully. It was the voice to have a child with Blood Dagger. After a brief moment of silence, cheers began to spread throughout. Amazing. Truly MEV. If you are the mistress of the clan, you must hear the voice of our god of the battlefield. Girik. An heir for Blood Dagger. Despite it sounding as if some grand event had occurred, in truth, they had just heard the contents of the quest. Heian began to look at MEV with a subtle, gentle eye. The majority of the green skins may not know, but usually the quests are guided by one's desires and wants. It must be truly distressing for her, so much so, that she had received a quest of becoming pregnant to Blood Dagger. In truth, it was a strange catharsis. Although the others were cheering for MEV, in actuality, she thought that she was the true mistress of the clan. The reason was not because she adored MEV and the three goblin sisters, but because the only one that Blood Dagger had emotionally bonded with was a human, not a green skin like herself. All she knew was that, in MEV's current state, Blood Dagger will never sleep with her. The fact that inside Blood Dagger was a human, like herself, was the first reason. With the thoughts and behavior of a human, he would never be attracted to a small child like MEV. Sexually was the second reason. She was cute enough as a friend, but she was a bit delicate. Heian smiled and laughed in the end. There was a time when MEV and her had talked about sex in the past. It was truly interesting seeing her praise the greatness of Blood Dagger without having seen it before. She may have imagined it, but she hasn't experienced it physically. In short, MEV was an inexperienced novice like herself before. Heian mused, as someone who would enjoy a great deal of intimacy with Blood Dagger every night, of course laughter would come out of her. Smiling, Heian looked around only to briefly make eye contact with Regia before turning away, but it felt as if Regia knew everything. She had simply smiled back at her. If she were to ask anything, she decided to be ignorant as Heian looked back at MEV. MEV. The voice of our god of the battlefield. MEV was looking down at Regia with her nose high. Regia too sent back a look that signified she wouldn't lose this fight either. To see them fight, not knowing that the true victor was herself, Hei-An began to quietly raise her voice. MEV. MEV. So the meeting of women concluded. TL afterward Calvies. LOL, Hei-An showing that alpha female status. TL notice. Getting better. PR afterward Psi 101. While, MC should just sleep with them at once. Problem solved. BM. MC already has the monster fetish, why can't he become a lolicon at the same time? Translator. Calvi's proofreader. Psi 101, borderline masochist. Chapter 79. Righteous Night, 1, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 79. Righteous Night, 1, the day after Nicole was born, I drank too much due to the excitement of the day, and I had even woken up late. There were no other plans for that day except talking with Hakajan, but despite that, laziness is the bane of life, was something I had learned in my previous life, so I was already regretting. Looking beside me, it seems that Hei-An had already left, as she wasn't here. Breakfast was already served on the dining table. What came into my eyes were the eggs of evil beasts, and herbs cooked in a nice soup base. If it were other goblins, they would have roughly prepared me either fruits or meat, but this part of Hei-An is what I liked about her. I moved the pot over to the fireplace, and soon heard it begin to boil, as the scent began to fill the room. I was now accustomed to waking up in the morning and hearing a report from the situation in the city by a Haiyan, so, as if a semblance to reading my morning newspaper, I contacted a Haiyan. Becca Haiyan. Yes. Yes. Savior.nim, I was waiting. Her voice didn't sound so well. She would normally sound very joyful, but something was amiss. I had initially thought that, maybe, I could feel these kinds of things as well from the Covenant ring, but I decided to wait for the news and decided to solve the original problem from the source outward. Was there any news from the north? Yes, yes. Savior.nim, there is. Though it is impossible to precisely investigate, but if it's a little, good. It was hard to locate the individual named Choi Solji, but lately a girl named Han Sohai is accumulating a great mass of reputation. There is currently an officer called the Cold Spear, a skilled thief who joined her clan as an officer. I couldn't find out her name, but by matching the appearance and your description, I have concluded that she is the woman named Choi Solji which Savior.nim is looking for. You did very well. Thank you. Savior.nim, I had somewhat expected her to polish her strengths under the Queen of the North, but Choi Solji is training quite well herself. She is probably lying in wait for her opportunity of vengeance during the war which will happen between the Queen of the North and the Saint Sword in a few years' time. I didn't worry too much about Choi Solji, but hearing her news, I was more relieved. And the news from the swamps was just as Savior.nim had predicted. For several years, there has been a half-ogre who has been running rampant. There were not a lot of survivors, so it was difficult to precisely hear more than that. To be honest, this much was enough. This was the limit of information that could be sufficiently investigated on this side, but lately, Regia has been quite busy, so he had no choice but to request a Haiyan for these matters. In reality, he had not expected much, but she provided great results. Not only a Haiyan, but there was no denying the strength which she was wielding from the followers. Competent. I'm always thankful to you. It is an honor. An honor. Savior.nim, if there is anything else that arises, report to me. Yes. Savior.nim, to be Nest, I have something to say. Speak. Thanks to Savior.nim, I have awakened my unique ability. Very interesting. It was quite impressive that she continued her blind faith towards me and persists with her growth, awakening her unique ability just 1 year after changing classes. Even in our clan, other than Gark, Hark, and I, there was no one else who had awakened their abilities yet. Interesting. The ability is called Martyrdom. It is a unique ability that allows me to detonate the followers of Savior.nim, and gives me greater power the larger the belief and numbers of the followers are. All of the believers are ready to give up their lives whenever for Savior.nim. PR. I asked, and that is a literal explosion, not a exploding the number of followers. Though I had a bemused expression, the function of this ability was not so great. Although he had expected quite a bit from a Hyen's explanation, but basically she created a suicide bombing squad. How ridiculous. To be honest, he had never thought of not throwing a Hyen away after using her, but this story was completely different. Now, he had to take care of her with all his power. Thanks to that, he decided to ask a more personal question. It's an ability fitting of your belief. But, yes. Your condition doesn't seem too well. What are you troubled with? Yes. Well, it's not a great enough of a deal to report. Speak. Lately, there's been a human that's been continuing to flirt with me. Whenever he's around, just seeing his face makes me feel as if I'm sinning to Savior.nim. It was an unexpected remark. Of course she wasn't as pretty as Regia or Heian, but she had a beautiful face regardless. A Hyen's heightened self of security with that small frame, her actions normally would be sufficient enough to be accounted for. If they were official guild members of the Sky Dragon Guild, then the one flirting with her would definitely be Strong himself. If that wasn't the case, then, with a Hyen's temper, she wouldn't have left him alone. Kariikiyak. What's his name? He's a guy from AIA City. A human named Yung Yuichang. I have heard that among the people in Legius, that he was one of the officers of the Holy Knights who have come to aid in the management of Legius. Yung Yuichang. I thought I had heard this name somewhere, so recollecting my memories, I was able to quickly realize who he was. Righteous Knight. Among the humans in the continent, he was one of those who had quite a good reputation. As one which attained the special class of Righteous Knight, his personality was greatly just and righteous. He would always support the poor and weak, and always fought in the front lines, sacrificing himself. From such a corrupted guild, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was the only clean and just human. The problem was, that he had sworn allegiance to the Sword Saint. A talented individual who was the right hand of the Sword Saint until his death. The Righteous Knight being infatuated with a Hyen, was a kind of feeling that resulted in him biting the bait, which wasn't even thrown out to begin with. I began to contemplate this event. After entering the West, I had always thought of wanting to land a blow to the Sword Saint, but it seems that the opportunity had come earlier than expected. How long will it take for you to become close with him? Yes. A cold probing voice unfitting of what a Hyen was accustomed to hearing. Seeing that she was imagining something useless, I spoke once more. I did not say to have intercourse with him. If you are smart, you would know what I mean. Ah. Thank you. Savior.nim, thank you. In other words, the next sacrifice. His body was becoming rusty as a matter of fact, so it was great to find a truly fine prey. Report his every move, habit, and even his intentions. I believe that you can do it. Yes. Please leave it to me. The Righteous Knight, named Yung Yuichang, was a holy knight that was quite reputable in the continent. He was a great talent that was immediately scouted the moment he arrived into the continent. Of course, he wasn't as strong as the last time I had seen him, but I thought that he would sufficiently be powerful. He's probably among the elites in terms of strength. Hearing the overjoyed Hyen's voice, I disconnected the line. I now had to discuss this recent news with Hakugen. I had originally planned on holding a meeting, so I couldn't leave out any facts like these at all. Recently, the person I discussed with most was neither Heian nor MEV, but Hakugen. I asked for Hakugen's opinion for nearly everything. As such, other than the fact that he had become invaluable, he had become someone that knows quite a lot about everything. I am not a perfect man, PR. Well, duh, you are an orc. If I were to make the wrong choices, or take the wrong path, I needed someone to correct me, and that was why I recruited Hackhagen. So far, there have been no problems. The Blood Dagger clan enjoyed hunting the strong extremely. With a joyful heart, I headed for Hackhagen's tent. While walking over, I could hear quite a boisterous noise from MEV's tent, and I assumed that she was mentally training the female tribal members. I chuckled as I spoke in front of Hackhagen's tent. "I'm coming in, Hackhagen." Yes. It was not a request for permission, but a notice. But, he wasn't uncomfortable. As the clan chief, I could leave and enter whichever tent freely. Seeing Hackhagen's tent, he was busily writing something on his table. It might be administrative work or a military order, I did not know, but he quickly cleared the table and shifted his priority onto me. Sitting on the chair Hackhagen was originally sitting on, I opened my mouth. "I have brought 2 interesting news. Have you decided on the next destination by any chance?" "It's similar." Lately, the greatest interest of the Blood Dagger clan was their next destination. Whether they would head to a dungeon, or enter a war zone, where they would infiltrate and hunt humans, or even hunt evil beasts, or try taming evil beasts, stockpiling more food. Hackhagen and I ceaselessly discussed and exchanged opinions. With the Blood Dagger seeds beginning to display its roots of growth now, we couldn't help but feel cautious of our decisions presently. Amidst this situation, he'll definitely find the situation with the Righteous Knight very interesting, so I began to share the news. Firstly, I revealed to him the information of Ahian's new awakened unique ability. Secondly, I described the authorities, who were dispatched in the city Ahian resided in. As I continued to divulge, Hackhagen's face became more pleased and excited, having a similar response to what I had. "I think we can try. If what that woman says is true, then we can use her. Since there are green skins who have lost their honor falling for women here as well, I thought it was bullshit before, but the old saying that, men ruled the world, but it was women who ruled over the men, seemed to be true. To be precise, we could invite the Righteous Knight into our perfectly planned party. Of course, it isn't like there is no chance of failure, but imagining his face after being backstabbed by Ahian was truly remarkable to visualize. Especially, what leaves a lasting impression is that woman's ability. I think we need to know about it a bit more in detail. If that ability could also influence our subordinates, then we might hold a bomb that cannot be bore. To be honest, I haven't thought of that. It wasn't just the followers of Ahian that had a lot of faith. It included the tribal members of Blood Dagger as well. Whether the effects of her ability influenced only to those she preached, or if she can activate her ability without limits to anyone, he definitely had to confirm. Of course there was no reason for that happening, but if Ahian were to betray him, then, just like what Hackhagen had mentioned, the existence of Ahian could be a ticking bomb. Chapter 80. Righteous Knight, 2, you are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 80. Righteous Knight, 2, Ahian was active as an official guild member of the Sky Dragon Guild. Looking inside, a splendid room was seen. An extremely large, spacious room, with high-quality furniture and a large bed. Compared to the place she lived in before, she almost felt apologetic. No, in the beginning, the room she lived in before couldn't even be called a place to live as it was incomparable. A life that she only dreamt of, Ahian was currently living that life. Despite being in a small city, she was an official guild member of the largest guild in the city, and she wasn't weak like before, and instead had a bright future ahead. Just by having the insignia of the Sky Dragon Guild, people from small to medium clans would all bow their heads, as nearly the entire authority of the city was gathered into one guild. Despite living the life that she dreamt of, Heian miserably laid on the bed, feeling empty. She definitely knew the reason why. Savior.nim, since what she really wanted was far away. Then, Ahian went down on her knees beside the bed and gathered her hands to pray. It was because she felt that she would commit an act that she should not do. It was then. Is Ahian here by any chance? Then, she heard knocking outside her door. Persistent man. Ahian mercilessly frowned, being accosted in her valuable time. Though she had already reported to Savior.Nim regarding this matter, the recent attentions from this man called Righteous Spear were extremely annoying for her lately, this constant need to search for her. Despite already having expressed a stern, "Do not come close to me," this fact appears to have been ignored, as he incessantly came in search of her, causing her to become even more angry. It was extremely burdensome, as she also had the Sky Dragon Guild Master trying to match her up with Young Yuechang. Despite hearing how beneficial it was to nurture a good relationship with that man for her own sake, in truth, she didn't even want to make eye contact with him. However, she could not ignore the words of the Savior. This man is a sacrifice. A sacrifice for Savior.Nim. Remembering his order of reporting his every move and action, Ahian cautiously opened the door. "What have you come here for today?" In spite of that, her chilly tone did not change. After opening the door, she began to stare at the man looking at her. He was tall with a good-looking face. In the standards of Earth, it can be said that he was handsome. But, it was extremely uncomfortable for Ahian to look at that face. That look of worry, look of wanting to cherish, all of it caused her to remember her dead, Uni. "How dare you?" That caused her befuddled emotions to rise, as she had a strange expression. Although she couldn't discover the source of this feeling, this rising emotion didn't feel good for her. "I was wondering if we can have a meal together. Do you have time?" Speechlessly looking at him was enough to show the irritation which she felt towards him. But, she suppressed the rising anger inside of her. She must not become angry like usual. The command of Savior.Nim is absolute. So, she thought that hanging out with him momentarily was inevitable, since all of today's work would be compensated back to her in the future. "It'll be fine." Nodding, the guy began to smile foolishly. Ahian, judging the person in front of her as foolish, held in the nauseous vomit rising within her and began walking. The sun was rising from the west. "For some reason, I felt good, so I came to see you. It was good of me to come." "Yes. I was hungry anyways. I have found a decent restaurant nearby." "Yes. I'm looking forward to it." The place Yuechang brought her to was the largest restaurant in the city, reserved only for the elites and high-ranking officials. Before, even with money, you couldn't enter this restaurant. However, Ahian walked into the restaurant just like that. Now, she wasn't even surprised. Entering the restaurant manager appeared and began to guide Ahian and Righteous Spear, as they soon sat in a reserved seating area. So the fact that he came and asked her out for a meal by chance was all a bluff. Ahian was flabbergasted that there was already a reservation in check, but Ahian expressionlessly drank water. "So, what do you normally do in your spare time?" Then a very uncertain voice drizzled down. For a citizen of a large city, he looked quite rattled. Ahian looked at Righteous Spear as she replied. "I pray." "Ah. Yes, of course. Prayer is most important when you're a priest. If I may ask, what god do you follow?" "The goddess of abundance." It was obvious, but there were quite a lot of gods within the continent. As such, the gods who each priest believed in had some differences. Whenever she was asked this question, she would reply with the goddess of abundance. Of course, the person she truly followed was Savior.Nim, but she thought it was best not to cause any unnecessary disasters. Thanks to this kind of question, Ahian did not really like this man. So it was the goddess of abundance. I have heard that there are not a lot of followers for the goddess of abundance. How impressive indeed. Lately, the Sky Dragon Guild have been accumulating some reputation. I wonder how they were hiding a hidden gem like this until now. Haha. Thank you for the compliment. Though she slightly laughed, she almost stood up and left after hearing that. Since she was in hell at the time, of course that man wouldn't know someone like her. Hypocrite. If she was still a porter, then he wouldn't have treated her like this, and his initial response to her would be extremely negative. She thought that he wouldn't be any different from those beast-like trash. All false and hypocritical. All the people here were wearing masks. She started to feel the nausea and vomit rising from within her once again. Subconsciously, she grabbed the ring inside her glove tightly and prayed. Savior.nim. Savior.nim, are you not feeling well? It was then that she heard the voice once again, so she shook her head lightly. No. Rather. What do you do normally? Well, I don't really do much. Well, if you're an official guild member of the Sky Dragon Guild, then it shouldn't matter if I tell you. To be honest, I've been looking for some murderers recently. Yes. In this city, there have been a large group of murderers active in the area. Whether it's Weapon Merchant or Blood Dagger, I don't know, but since it's being quiet, it's the perfect time to root them out, I suppose. With the mentioning of Blood Dagger from Yue Chang's mouth, Ahian momentarily bit her lips, but recollected herself, as she focused on the conversation once again. It was because she thought the current information will be quite helpful to Savior. How interesting. I want to hear a bit more in detail, would that be alright? If it's alright, I would like to participate in the next expedition. Of course you can. Whenever you hear news of murderers, I have heard that you have never missed participating in an expedition, but it seems that those rumors are true. Since I know better than anyone else just how elated the goddess of abundance will be with the burning of justice. In Ahian's perspective, she was trying hard to lower the killing intent, but in the eyes of others, it did not look like that. Of course, it was plausible. Since the murderers in the vicinity of Legia City would usually target beginners the majority of the time. So much so that the strong guilds and clans were joking about finding the best way to avoid these murderers. Sadly, that joke was the perfect answer. They too can think. Unless it's a particular exception, you don't poke at competent elites. In the city's point of view, the beginners, whom the city did not really care much about, were always the prey. As such, despite being an official Sky Dragon official guild member, the fact that Ahian would always go on expeditions together with smaller clans in hunting these murderers was quite famous in the city. Ahian did not necessarily reply to Yue Chang's words. What was important was whether she could participate in the expedition or not. That fact alone was the most critical. Is it all right for me to participate? Of course we would welcome you, but on a personal level, I do not necessarily recommend this. The reason why our guild is being dispatched this time is because the opponents we're facing are not easy to deal with. To be honest, the reason why I came to this city from AIA was not to help the management, but locate the tail end of these murderous clans. It will be a bit dangerous. Ahian slightly laughed from Yue Chang's words. With the Holy Order by my side, what do I need to worry of? Especially with Yue Chang here with me. Ahian's last words caused Yue Chang's face to lighten. He wasn't showing it, but he looked extremely happy. In the end, Yue Chang slowly began to speak. Yes. I was planning on receiving help from the other clans anyway. There's no greater joy than having a talented priest help us. It might be a bit difficult, but I will take responsibility in protecting you. Yes. I truly thank you. It was great news. This piece of information would definitely make Savior.nim happy. Perhaps he was hearing this conversation somewhere right now, as Ahian smiled. It's the first time I'm seeing it. Yes. Seeing you smile like this with me together. Not knowing what to say to this, Ahian's expression was slowly hardening, causing Yue Chang to quickly continue. As expected, Ahian seems to enjoy helping others. Whether it's always helping in the hunt for murderers, and distributing food for the poor and weak, to be honest, in this world, although people say what good is there to help others, I truly support your actions. Yes. Thank you. If it's alright, I could also volunteer together with you. Ahian was briefly lost in thought. The reason she was helping those in poverty was to save them from this world and preach the will of the Savior. Obviously, Ahian did not want this man to interfere within her sacred realm. That alone is enough for me. Ah, you are uncomfortable. He was extremely depressed. Ahian began to observe this man's expression. A powerful authority like him was currently depressed from one sentence of hers. What an unexpected pleasure. To be precise, it wasn't pleasure deriving from the manipulation of this man. Rather, it was the face of his, which relayed that he'd made a mistake. He was currently regretting, as he looked anxious and depressed. A strange feeling arose from Ahian due to that kind of face. She wasn't completely sure, but after the end of this work, she thought that she would be able to eat a very sweet fruit. But, yes. I would be open to eating with you occasionally. That means. Yes. Rather than working together, if you can provide support in other ways. I wouldn't be wasting your time, and above all, you would be doing a great job, rather than me in rescuing the poor. Ah, yes. If I can help in that way, I will do all I can. Thank you. TL afterward Calvis. Poor guy. He doesn't deserve the fate coming to him. He's just a loyal, faithful and innocent man that's hopelessly in love. TL notice. Website was down yesterday, and with me still recovering from the flu, it must be fate that it wanted me to have a break lol. PR afterward Psi 101. Agree, poor guy does not deserve this. Orcs return to the path of the green skins. BM. That guy is going to get tossed around like a plaything wherever he goes, whether by any Eon, Blood Dagger, or by the Sword Saint.